All right, we're going to be adding on the transmission cooler that Mishimoto makes, and we're going to be putting this on the Gladiator JT. As you can tell, this is what it comes like in the bag. A lot more heavy duty. Comes with some extra little tiny pins and spacers. Moving right over here, we're going to start off by removing your little tabs here. You can either use a flathead screwdriver or one of the pulling parts. I've already also taken off the bolts for the airbox and the tube, and then pulled this. To get this to remove, all you gotta do is just push that in and pull back on it. I'm gonna go and I'll remove that off camera and I'll be right back. All right, so you can obviously come to the instructions, which are gonna show you the same thing. One of the big things with removing the front grille, they want you to remove it and remove the front headlight, which comes a little later. I'm gonna try to do it without doing that, because where my winch is set up, as you can tell, I can't remove that front piece without removing the winch and the front bumper and everything. So I think I can get it done without it, but we'll see how we do it. Coming up top here to remove those, once we got the first two out, all you gotta do is, again, put that kind of below it and it just lifts out. At this point, when all those are out, you're just gonna kind of give it a little pull forward and that detaches. So again, that should give us enough access to get in there. And all right, so from that top view there, after taking those screws and loosening them up, we're just gonna pull this out, set that to the side. We're gonna end up pulling this out too. While you have it out, go ahead and inspect it, make sure it's still in good shape. This part here is going to lift off. Again, don't lose the screws. I'll take those out. We're taking the bolt out here, and then this just lifts straight up. If you've never taken this out, on the bottom side there are two little rubber pieces. Go ahead and pull those off, and you're going to stick these back in the holes that they came out of. There's one, and there's two. Yours will probably look a little bit cleaner than my Jeep, but hey, it's what we do. All right, next, I always have a problem removing these. I'm going to try to do it without removing it just because they're in there pretty good. But yeah, right here, there's a little push button. You're going to push down on that and then pull back on that. We can even get that one out and remove it. So that's kind of up out of the way. Right at the top here on each side, it's going to be 10 millimeter. Pull those out. There it goes. In the instructions, it does have you remove these two lines. This is your inlet and your return line. Before this point, I'm just going to go get everything kind of loosened up to make sure it will come out before I get those done. But there's two bolts right in here. These are 8 millimeters. We're going to take those out. All right, so it looks like the second bolt is way down in there. You can't really get to it without removing the headlights. That's why they want it removed. So with this pulled back, I'm going to go ahead and try to get this out and just be able to move that headlight without fully removing everything, just because, as you see, it's not going to come out. So as you can tell, I was able to move that headlight forward just enough to be able to get that out and don't have to remove the full front grille. All right, so for getting these off, you basically just pull on the sleeve. This bottom one didn't want to come off as easy, so I just took a flathead, kind of put it in between the rubber space or the plastic spacer and the cap, kind of helped pull it off. And then I also marked the top and bottom just to help me later on. All right, to get that spring to come out, you get a flathead screwdriver and you pretty much just push it right up underneath and kind of lift up on it. And then you're going to pull out, and it should expose like that. And that should be all that we need there. And then do the same thing for the bottom one. And then from there, we can just slide this back. I'm gonna have to get in there with two hands. All right, so as you can see, you're basically just gonna kind of pull on that and it's gonna wanna come out. There we go. There's some of the fluid getting ready to drip, so I'm gonna get my towel set up. All right, so what we're gonna try to do is pull that off and recover as much of that oil as possible without it going everywhere. So let's go and stick some extra towels kind of below. All right. Alright, now that we got everything unloosed, we're going to go and try to get that off before it drains too much out. Alright, so let's try to get this out again. Like I said, we're going to try to kind of keep that, but this is just going to kind of slide over and up. Let's get that out of the way. And I want to try to keep this kind of on the upward side to not lose as much as possible. Let's take it over and compare the two. Alright, let's go ahead and drain that out. Let's take a look at how that oil looks. So I will tell you that I just did the PPE cooling pan about 3,000 or 4,000 miles ago. So it had a swap of fluid that was, I believe it was 6 quarts. So it's not exactly the best looking, but it's not the worst. Alright, so the last thing we gotta do is take these two out and then put them in here. But I do want to compare them side by side. I know online, you can see the photos where they do kind of show the same thing. But look at the thickness difference of that. Just how much thicker and the amount of fluid is going to get off of that. The individual running tube size seems to be about the same, but really these corner tubes and just what that's going to be able to do, they're promoting some huge differences. Let's flip it over. So I do have these flipped opposite directions just because I don't want to get all the fluid over the floor. But just being able to see comparison side by side what we're really looking at difference wise. Alright, so as you can tell, we used a vise, put it in, basically spun it off real easy. I've put the same ones in the same positions, and now I'm going to put this in the vise so that way I can go and tighten it down. So we have it there, and we're just going to finish tightening this down. You could probably use a socket on this also. And we're just going to snug it. Alright, the next thing is it's talking about removing the bolts to secure the horn brackets to the radiator support and replacing them with the Allen wrench screws like that one there. So let's go find those and see what they're talking about. Alright, so it looks like that. Let me go and get the... Alright, so I've already began loosening that. Let's see if I can get this while the camera's rolling. Kind of have to hold it in. There's just kind of a little notch on the back, and we're going to replace that with a new one. And I'm going to drop a thing of Loctite on it. Alright, so as I mentioned, I put a little bit of Loctite on that, and you got it kind of most of the way back down and in. And we're just going to finish snugging that down. Alright, so if you don't have the 3.6 liter, I guess you're done. But if you have the 3.6 liter, we are going to have to follow the little special instructions, and someone did tell me that these are required to not skip it. But we're going to have to insert these spacers, and where it's saying is in between the radiator, which is right here, and then your AC cooling, which is right below where that sits. So the first screw / bolt is going to be right down here. If you can kind of see where my finger's at, I've already removed it right there. And it did seem to go ahead and just remove the light. I was able to get both the lights out without any issue with leaving the grill in place. Just kind of pull forward about there and come out. The second screw is, or bolt, is right there. And I gotta locate the other two, which are gonna be down lower, and go and get the spacers in. Alright, so coming in here, that bolt right there, if you loosen that up, that allows a little bit of movement to get these spacers in. I've still gotta figure out how to get to the lower two spots, but we'll work with what we got so far. Alright guys, I'm going to try to do my best to get this on camera for you. It is a very hard positioning where I've got stuff. But essentially we are going to get this little spacer in there. Like that. And then we got to get this bolt in. Like that, and start spinning. so definitely a hard time. Now I've got to get to the bottom two like I mentioned. We'll slowly work this in. Alright, so right now what we've done is tighten it down just enough where we can still get the bottom two out and we don't have to worry about anything falling. The bottom ones are down below. It would definitely be easier if you did not have a bumper in place, but that's what we have. So because of my restrictions, I think if this was off, it'd be a lot easier to get to. So yeah, we're just gonna kind of fight to get to it. Alright, so if you're like me and have a winch, a Rubicon, and the older one that has the lower part, this is basically how I'm able to get that in. It is really hard to kind of see what and where exactly I'm at. Hopefully I can get an angle in there a little bit. I had to remove the bottom skid plate too, so just keep working it. Alright, so where I was able to get it in, or the other one's out and now the new one's in, it's 10mm. One of the tricks we're going to do is we're going to push this in. We're going to grab a piece of tape, basically just poke this on through the tape. And that allows us to maneuver this, get it basically put in position, tighten it down, and then when it's done, we can just basically pull the socket off and the little bit of tape below will stay on and the rest of it comes off. Alright, so like I was saying, if you do not have a winch, if you are able to remove this, it makes it really easy, and let me show you why. Actually, let me remove the camera off the stand. Let's drop you guys in this way. I know it's kind of hard to see with that light. There you go, straight ahead. So what I was able to do is kind of reach up with my hand from the top and down here from the side. There's that. And I was able to kind of slide it in. And I was able to use these to kind of grip the metal piece and kind of take it up and put it in place. Just kind of slide it in. Now I'm just going to tighten it by hand and then I'll get on the wrench. As you can tell, that's how it's finished coming off. Let's see if I can kind of back in. Let's see. Let's see if I can get that light out of the way. There's your screw bolt in place there. And now we'll come tighten the top ones up and put it all back together. Alright, so as you see, we pretty much have this all back together. We're going to go ahead and slide our cooler, the new cooler, in place. These fins here line up on that side, so it is pretty much drop and go. Just make sure you line those up. There we go, got those tabs lined up. Take you guys down and let you see it. So that's it sitting in place. You see the little tiny tabs right there that it goes into. And let's check that clearance out. While you had to remove or pull that AC system forward. As you can see, it is a very, I guess you call it tight fit, but it definitely does its job. So let's get our two bolts back in here and down here, and then we'll get our lines reconnected, headlights back in, and everything put back together. Before putting your headlight back in, don't forget to tighten down that little tiny bolt right there that we took off earlier. I'll mount you up here and I'll go ahead and show you how I was able to get that light in. So going from the back side, we're just going to kind of pull that back forward. It's going to drop it into place. Don't forget to plug it back in. Set it in place and go and put your screws in. So kind of the question that some people have had online is whether this is something that they need or not. For me particularly, we pull a camping trailer behind this, so it's got constant weight on that part for the highway mileage. Also on the back end of it, we've got the bed camp or the bed cap on it, and then also inside of that with a little bit extra weight, we've actually got a bed slide. So with what we do for off-roading, it definitely has some extra weight to it. And so because of that, this is something we wanted to do. I did just take this on a road trip, and with the way that it sits now, running the 35s and all that, we were seeing transmission temps at about 195 to 200 during regular highway speeds in the mountains. Temperature outside was about 70 to 75. When we were doing about 80 miles an hour, not the 75 that we were doing, when we were about the 80 miles an hour, we were seeing temps go up into about the 2 to 205 range. And when we're pulling a trailer, I commonly see up to about 220. So that was one of the reasons we wanted to add just a little bit extra on top of the PPE cooler, which I can show you also down below here. So that is the pan cooler we put on. And with that, we also wrapped the exhaust with some heat wrap to kind of help keep that away. One of the other issues that we have, particularly with this vehicle that most people don't have, is we do have the skid plates up underneath. And due to that, we have a little bit more of a wind restriction, so we're not getting all the cooling effect that some people will have. So take that in consideration when you're looking at it. That's why we particularly thought this was a good idea to do for the Jeep. And we'll see how it actually runs. Hopefully before I post this, I can go ahead and get some numbers. So as you can tell, it's hovering about the 194. The basic driving I did today, it seemed like it definitely was down by at least about 2 to 3 degrees on average. I won't really know much until I really start pulling some of the trailers and some of the other heavier stuff that gets me up in the higher temp ranges. But we are down in North Carolina, where we have high humidity and high heat. So we'll keep that updated, and I'll try to keep some updates in the notes or description of the film as some time goes on to kind of help you guys out, figure out where you're at. But it does seem to help a little bit.